Welcome everybody back to Boosting Foreigns, guys. And today we're going to talk about, I'm going to give you guys an experience. How was it owning a W205 C63 sedan? This is also going to apply for the C63 Coupe, I would say. And all the pros, the cons, and pretty much I've had that car for almost 2 years. And how was it owning and driving it? But also on top of that, this video comes after the concluding my W205 C63 series. The videos you saw on my channel of when I used to own it about 1.5 years ago, and it's been 1.5 years since then. Yeah, now I have a E63s. So we'll go into that series next. But as of right now, I want to give you guys a detailed video on everything that you need to know about owning a W205 C63. Guys, let's jump into the video. Welcome everybody back to Boosting Foreigns. You guys have a good morning, good afternoon, and good night. First thing, let me jump into it. First thing. The first thing I gotta tell you guys is, all in all, Boost, did you enjoy owning a W205 C63? Absolutely. It was a joy. It was my first V8 vehicle. It was my first rear-wheel drive vehicle. It was my first foreign vehicle. As the first car that I've ever owned that was that type of stature, it was an amazing experience. I loved it. I appreciate the joy of it. And it did exactly what I needed it to do. It got me into the foreign world. So I think I did a good job at coming into it, especially with an Imperial AMG vehicle. But now let's jump into the pros, which are going to be the first things that I enjoyed about the car. And then we're going to go to the cons and just some reliability issues. We're going to make this a detailed video. So I want you guys to sit there, relax, and sit there and open your mind and think, should I purchase a W205 C63? And I'm going to give you guys my honest opinion at the end of this video. So, first pro I'm going to sit there and say is power. There's not much V8, there's not much close to 500 horsepower cars you guys can go and purchase out in the market right now that are going to yield you this performance. Now, we may think there's a large amount, but there really isn't. When you think about the American car market and the prices of those vehicles, then you think about the Japanese market, which really don't have it other than the GTR and really expensive Japanese vehicles. There's not a lot of, I would say, cars out there that you can go get 500 horsepower from, period. And I believe that C63 definitely gives that to you guys, and I would recommend that as the first pro. Second pro, if you're into V8 vehicles, this car yields the best return on investment. I know it's not a W204 with the larger liter motor. I get it. That car is still a beast. It sounds amazing. But when they chose to go with the 4-liter twin turbo, people didn't like it as much, but they quickly still learned to love it because it had the V8 heritage, right? And there's not a lot of small displacement motors that can yield so much return in power. Because let's compare it to, let's say the M3 V8, right? That was a one-off. We love that. But then it was like, nah, that's it. We're going to go back to the inline 6 because they just didn't want to go that route with it, right? And I completely get it. But for the year it came out, 2015, V8 twin turbo rear-wheel drive, they did a great job at cramming that twin turbo V8 in there. And I think it's one of the best cars out there, that can give you rear-wheel drive V8 with twin turbos. There's not much cars in the market that come in that configuration. So I think that's another thing that's a pro with the car. 3, I would say it's rear-wheel drive. As much as I would love it all-wheel drive, once again, the rarity of it. People still love tail-happy cars. It was my first rear-wheel drive car. I enjoyed it. I love it. It was fun. And it just made putting on different wheels and tires a lot more easier and consistent. But that car yielded so much fun in return from it. I enjoy driving the car. And you learn to have respect for a lot of torque when it comes to these rear-wheel drive V8 vehicles. Next thing, another pro. You can get it in 2-door, 4-door, and you can get in drop top, because you can get the C63 Coupe in drop top. So you had different configurations in with this same drivetrain. And you can have it in those 3 different configurations. So that's the pros when it comes to the vehicle, right? Now, I'll talk about performance and the upgrades and stuff later on. I just want to talk about the initial pros, right? Now, cons, right? Even though I just sat there and said, number 1, rear drive is the dope part, I would say the lack of an all-wheel drive system. Yes, you have like the C63/C450, which came with a V6 and a twin-turbo all-wheel drive. So you got to see the additional performance with the vehicle and additional control feel. But it left some on the table because as you can see over time, the market is starting to go all-wheel drive. So you do feel like you have older technology because it's rear-wheel drive. But I realize that may not apply for a lot of people's needs. Some of you guys may live in places where you don't have stoplights. I live in a city area where most of my driving is from city lights. So if I do have any spirited driving, it's from off a green light. And the C63 did make me want to have more of that performance because it wasn't there anymore. I miss I came from my all-wheel drive Q50, Q60, so when I got into this, then that was that. You know what I'm saying? So that was one thing that I definitely did miss from that. And I really wished, I hoped and prayed that I could get that back. But unfortunately, that was something that went missing. Now, the next con I would sit there and say is, I gotta put this out here. Yes, you bought a foreign vehicle, you bought an AMG vehicle, but what I would also sit there and say is this. Man, that gas mileage was bad. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, my V6, my twin turbo Q50, and all my other cars always ate gas. But understand, when you got 4 liters and you're pressing that gas, your car is going to eat gas. Right? So understand, like, yeah, the car, when it's moving on the highway, it may still yield some type of highway performance or I would say, it'll yield highway mileage, but it's still going to burn gas. So I want you guys to know that with confidence. That's a thing. You're going to get 8 miles to the gallon if you're doing any type of city driving. Highway, you might push like 20. But you're not going to see 30, 40 miles per gallon. Just want to be fair and put that out there. Another con I would sit there and say is you have to understand this is a C-Class. This was my first entry into the luxury or borderline luxury foreign market. I had Q50s, Infinities, Nissans, but like that's Japanese entry-level luxury. This one was completely different. This was walking into and coming into entry-level C-Class. So there's going to be creaks, squeaks. There's going to be, yes, the quality was better than my Q50, but it's not going to be that much more better. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, I didn't have the race seats on my C63. I have the more the comfort seats. Yes, were they heated? Yes. Were they cool seats? No. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's going to be, because it was 2015, it was the first year, so there's a little bit more creature comforts after 2016, but other than that, you got to remember it's a C-Class, so it's not going to be fully luxurious. It's going to be a C-Class with a freaking big V8 squished in front. So what makes the car really special is it's lightweight, rear-wheel drive, and it's in the smallest body they really made in that configuration. So I wanted to tell you guys that that's pretty much what is the downturn of pretty much about it, whatever the case might be. Another con is space. I got to give you guys, it's going to be space. I am 6'1", right? I've always had, like I said, C-Classes, Q50s, Maximas, so I've always been used to those cars with those sizes. So it was a little bit more spacious for my legroom compared to the Q50 and other cars I've had. Headroom, I would say, is a little shorter, but the back seat was about the same size as my Q50 and Maximas. It was a little bit more spacious, but nonetheless, it's still a small car. It's a small vehicle, so that was still more of an issue when it comes to space. Yes, the trunk was bigger. The trunk has enough space, but remember, it's a C-Class, so the space would also be something that's not really that much of a positive either. Remember, it's a C-Class, so you got to be used to that. A lot of these things that I'm saying right now is because I then graduated to an E-Class, so I got to see that big difference in other vehicles I chose to purchase. Even though the C-Classes before, the W204 and even the W203, I've been in those vehicles, I never owned them, they were smaller vehicles. So the cars did get bigger over time, but it's still small vehicle for a person that's 6 foot. I just want to put that out there. So if it's you and your friends in the front and the back, it's going to not be as spacious. I just want to be fair so that you guys know and understand that. One of the last other cons I want to add is maintenance. Now, I'm saying it as a con because it's an AMG vehicle. So this isn't like you're going to be spending more money on oil, right? Like, I've always had to only buy like 5 to 6 quarts of oil. This car had to buy 10 quarts of oil. And there's also rear differential service, trans service, and there's other things that you have to get specially oil for the transmission and the rear differential. And that stuff is a little bit more expensive than what you see conventionally. So it's going to be. But at the end of the day, is it so much of a con? Yes, it could be, but just know that your maintenance costs could go up. Also, I want to be fair here. I did change the brakes on that vehicle. I didn't end up changing the fronts, but I changed the rears. There's some, rotors. There's things that are expensive if you don't know what it look like. Don't buy OEM brake pads and stuff, because that stuff will be super expensive. But I had to look for like Power Stop brake pads, which were like a third of the cost, which were a lot more affordable than going back with anything OEM from factory or even any other brand that makes expensive brake pads. So you just gotta look around and find ways to cost cut, because at the end of the day, yes, oh my God, you want the best brake pads. You can, but understand you don't have to spend $1,000 on front rotors and brake pads for these vehicles. You don't, when you can actually you can spend about $300 on front rotors and brake pads because you just went with the more affordable brand. You get what I'm trying to say? Unless you really care about want to buy in the top most high quality stuff. I get it, it's an AMG, but understand it's a C-Class still. It's still a C-Class. Like it's you're not buying carbon ceramic brakes here unless your car came with that. And even then, So what I want to move to next is modifications, performance stuff. So that's what I want to speak about. Now, I like the platform because when it comes to modifications, you can dabble in making these cars faster. You can do downpipes, you can do intakes, you can do blower valves for sound, you can do different exhaust on the market. But I'm gonna be honest with you, it pretty much stops there. Yes, you can do a tune. There's plenty of companies that do flash tunes for this vehicle, and it could gain additional horsepower from 70 to about 100 horsepower on whatever fuel you're running, and you can call it a day after that. But that's pretty much where it stops. That's it. That's where it stops, guys. It's not going to really move from then on. So understand, like, you can turn your 500 horsepower car to a 600, and that's fine. And then that's where you leave it at. Yes, you can do turbos. Down the line, you can run fully E85. But I want to quickly go to the second part of the performance, the cons part. It's expensive. I'm telling you guys right now, it is expensive to modify a W205. And what I mean by that is, even though there's a lot of companies that make tuning for this vehicle, they charge, I guess because the tuning software must be really expensive, they charge a lot of money to flash these cars. It's not like you're putting them on a dyno and they actually dyno tune the car. They're just sending you a generic flash to gain some horsepower that takes 2 minutes to upgrade, but they'll charge you $2,000-$3,000 for it. It's expensive. You also have transmission tools that allows your transmission to change even faster. And depending on if you have like a 2018, 2019 model, you have to get a CPC tune, which is additional like $1,500. With these cars, the cons is you might spend, I'm gonna be honest with you, $5,000 to $6,000 in just firmware. Just firmware completely. That's expensive. $5-6 grand just in firmware, software to upgrade and make the car faster. And I think that is a con because I've seen other competitive, like I would say BMW. I know they were cheaper, but I had BMW, Infiniti, Nissans, other vehicles. I've seen how much it is for the tuning software, how much it is to gain power and stuff like that. And Mercedes, you pay like a tax. It's expensive. And yes, you do yield another $100, but you just have to pay to play. And I find that to just be kind of deterring because it's expensive. That's really quite an expensive thing for most people. So understand that, yeah, you'll come over here like, yeah, I got an AMG C63, but it's going to be a lot more expensive. Now, in my own case, I only did a couple of modifications to this car because I could kind of go into that little detail. I did intakes, VRP intakes. The car already had a secondary cat delete, so I never did full downpipes or anything like that, and I wasn't going to, because when you do full downpipes on these vehicles, that's full catless, and you tune the car, they'll turn off that check engine light, and you'll never be able to pass inspection depending on your state or your country you're in, right? Some states don't care, or some countries don't care about it as much, but I like the car to run right with no check engine lights. And that's something that's going to happen if you turn off the emissions. So that you don't get any check engine light. You may not be able to pass inspection depending on your state, wherever you live. Now, and I did, and the way I never did a tune on my C63. I did a JB4 boost controller. It's just a way of adding additional power because you trick the car into making more power, and it ran perfectly fine. It's a reliable unit to use. Burger Tuning has been around for more than a decade, almost 2 decades now, so it was running perfectly fine. I've had JB4 on 5 different vehicles, never had any issues, right, with the performance part. The car ran right. Now, the car put down, when I did dyno it, you could go check my videos, I dynoed the car, it gained about additional 70 to 80 horsepower. So it dynoed like 440, I think it was like 440, and it made like 510 wheels with the boost control, like on map 3. So it was additional 70 horsepower, and there was more maps to go higher, whatever, but you know, I was still figuring out the car. But all in all, and that's a really expensive, cheap thing to do. I only spent $600 on that. I could have still did a trans tune and all that, but I chose not to because, you know, it's expensive, and I didn't really know if I was gonna keep the car that long. Now that I talked about the pros and cons and the money aspect and everything like that, all in all, right, from the interior to the aesthetic look, how the car looked, the car feels special. Compared to the F80s that's driving around, and the S4s, but there's really no really competing Audi of it because it never really came with an RS in America to really compete with it. So anything else in the class, this car felt more special, primarily competing against the F80 because there's so much M3s. You go right now, put in M3 from 2015 or 2014, whatever, up, you're going to have plentiful amount of M3s to choose from, right? Because they made so much. But what I can tell you is, when they came to the C63, they didn't make that much. I had the first year, 2015, and it was just pretty much there. That's it. That's all. Like, you're barely going to get a regular C63. Most of them going to be S's. And even when you go up in the years, they didn't make that much. So you're actually getting a car that's a lot more special because they didn't make as much of them. It's not like BMW just threw out a lot of them cars. With the C63, when you have one, you will stand out because you don't see much of them. Period. That's it. Like, you're going to stand out. Once you just keep the car clean, sounding good, you're always going to sound better than the F80. Honestly, in my opinion, you're going to look better than the F80, and you're not going to be part of the F80 group. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a Mercedes guy. I'm going to talk my shit, even though I have a BMW right now, too, as my other daily driver, right? But I will still pick a C63 over the F80 any day. Maybe one day in the future, I'll get an F80 just to experience it. I know it's probably the better driver's car, but until I get to drive it, well, I actually did drive it, but like, I drove an F83. But until I can sit there and say I've owned it, like I can make the better comparison, I still believe that the V8 rear-wheel drive just sounds better, look better. It's just a better car. But if you're looking for full driving performance, I believe the M3 is still probably there. Absolutely. Now, I'm gonna tell you guys some more stuff because you're gonna ask, well, now that you have the car, right? Now the car's not here. What do you miss the most, right? And I'm gonna tell you guys honestly, I miss the look of that car. I think, like, it goes back to the idea that no one really else had it. Like, I miss the look of that car. I was the only one with a white one in Brooklyn, like barely. There was only like 2 other people who had this car that I know of that I've came across. And it just stood out. It was clean, black interior, white on the outside, the RV white, black lipped up. The front end looks sick. I love the front end of the W205 C63. I think it's an amazing front end. I think they did a great job. Same thing for the W212. I love that front end with the it has a boxier angle, like they designed it to have air just coming in. Oh man, I love the look of that car. I love the sound of that car. I love driving that car. I actually love the transmission feel of that car over this one. This has 9 speeds. It feels like it's doing too much. The 7-speed to me was just enough. Like it was just enough. It didn't have to do too much, and it wasn't as active looking for the different gears. And I like, and when I got on it, it's the same thing here. You have the power, but It's like it was just something special. When that girl started moving, you could feel it in the rear end. And I understand why people love the rear-wheel drive, because it's like once you feel the car a lot more in a rear-wheel drive car. You can sit there, you can actually feel how it sits, how it moves. You can feel you could feel the rear differential like clicking in and locking in. Like there is more driver sense in a rear-wheel drive vehicle. And then that would probably mean that what I miss in the car is the driving experience. Whenever I did drive anywhere far or did any type of spirited driving, I still had to learn to have respect for the vehicle, but it was also a great driving experience, and it was smaller and nimbler. It was 3,900 pounds, so that's what I really enjoyed it with that vehicle. That was something that made me smile, I went different places. I drove that car to DC. I drove it up to Virginia Beach. No, Virginia, Richmond. I drove 6 to 7 hours away, and I enjoyed it. It was a great experience, an amazing experience. And I haven't driven this car as far, but it was good. I loved it, and it just always had that nice, sexy rumble, man. Ooh, and then I remember seeing it this year, whenever this video dropped in 2024. But I remember seeing it this year, and it was someone bought it after like 2 or 3 times, because I was only the second owner, and now the car got resold like 2-3 times later. So it was like it's on its 5th owner, and I saw it beat up. Still has some of the mud flaps, the stuff I did on it. Like the car just looked a lot more beat up, and I'm just like, damn. Like, I get it. Like, people just don't really take care of it. It's a cheaper car now. But to me, it felt special, right? And I enjoyed it. And if I were to do it again, right? Like, if I were to do the car again, I would definitely probably still get a 2015 to like 2018 model. I would still stick with the 7-speed transmission. I don't care for the 9-speed. I understand people want the digital dash. I get it, but I still like more of a fan of the analog. I understand the look of wanting all of the digital dash, but I like the analog a lot more. I would do the same modifications. I'll probably do downpipes with full catted downpipes. I'll leave the exhaust the same, and I would still do a regular C63 and not a C63s. So what would I say are the worst? Hopefully you guys made it to this part. What would I say is the worst part about owning the C63? The worst parts about owning it, like the ones you just sit there and say, damn, this really sucked about it. I did run into some maintenance issues. Commonly for those cars, you're gonna have randomly the coil pack is gonna go bad. The coil packs on these vehicles, so the M177 are dual coil packs. So they take care of 2 cylinders at a time. So you have 4 coil packs for 8 cylinders, right? And they will fail over time. My coil packs failed. Well, one of my coil packs fell, and then I got a crazy misfire. Not because of tuning or anything or modifications. It's just something common for these vehicles. So what you got to do is you got to buy a coil pack, and you should change those two. You should change those 2 spark plugs at the same time. If you don't know which side it is, of course you can move the coil pack around. But outside of that, like, I could have fixed it myself, but I was actually sick with, the virus, whatever I had at the time, so I couldn't actually do the work. Like, I did the work, but for me to order and wait for the part to come in, it would have took too long. So I just had it towed to my friend's shop, and he got a coil pack for me and took care of it like that. But that was the only real issue with the C63, because I got it because I didn't want to deal with the electronic differential. If you get the C63s, you'll run into an electronic differential problem over the certain amount of time. It's just something that does happen. Doesn't mean the differential stops working. It's just that it's electronic diff, so it has a sensor that could fail over time. Not saying it's that common, but it's common enough with higher mileage, I'm assuming. And the engine mounts will be electronic on the S version 2. So those, after a certain amount of time, they go bad, they go soft, the sensors go bad, and you'll have to change those. And they are quite expensive. So if I had to do it, I would still do a non-S. I wouldn't. I've sat in, and not driven, but I sat in the one with the sports seats. It's not really my thing. I still like the comfort seats. I don't know if bigger guys would really fit in it, because I'm already 180 and 6'1". So if I was wider, the C63 it was a lot still more narrower. So I still don't think it would be good enough for a bigger guy. It would feel pretty weird for him. But other than that maintenance issue, there are all the other common stuff, like because you have the front coolers, right? If you do a lot of highway driving, rocks could hit them and cause leaks. So you can't really protect them as much. There's other ways of countermeasures to protect them, like certain fencing and stuff, or whatever guards you can put. But understand that stuff could break over time, right? That stuff could break, and you could actually get a leak from there. And honestly, after that, like anything else common to C-Class, you know, starters, alternators, stuff that's usual maintenance. Understand you're not going to ever buy a car for a long period of time and not have to change certain things. Like, unless you want an electric car, like there's going to be components that have a certain amount of service life that you're going to have to change. I didn't run into those issues because I only had the car for a year and a half, and I also had a Q60 Infiniti at the same time, so I didn't drive it every day. I was switching off between the two cars, and then I ended up moving close to work where I barely drove most of the cars that often. So I ended up selling the Q60, and I had just the C63, and I barely drove that often. I drove it mostly on the weekends because I was so close to work. So I didn't add a bunch of additional miles. It got most of its miles when I went on road trips. That's pretty much it. But other than those couple of things that will come on certain vehicles and the misfire that is pretty common in this platform, everything else was flawless. Like the car never left me stranded, it never died. It was good. I had a great time with the car. Man, I enjoyed that car. Also, I want to add this part just in case. It's the only car, it was my first time having a panoramic sunroof. So like it's a C-Class, but it had like a panoramic sunroof. That's fire. Like I was like, this is nice. This is nice. Like on such a small car like that had that additional thing, and these little things look nice because you sit there and wonder, why can't they put this on other vehicles? Like if this little car could have it, why can't other cars? But understand it's something else that could be more expensive and something else that could leak and cause break. But I really did enjoy that vehicle, man. I really did enjoy that vehicle. So I know I'm ending it off talking about all the pros and cons and everything. Like, I would say I'm a little biased because I've owned two AMGs. As you can see, I'm in one right now. But I also am a current owner of a BMW 2, a 7 Series. Yes, it's a 7. And I'm getting more into larger cars for more comfort. But, man, I see and understand why AMG is so special. And I see why people, once they go, like I said, when they go AMG, they don't really go back. It's the same thing when you go BMW, you don't go back. And anything between, if they go between the two, you learn to have a certain amount of respect. And it all depends on the model you get. You know, anyone who had got a W204, beast, so they may not love the V8 that much in the W205. You know, I understand it. We graduate depending on our income too. You know, if you're a car person, you like this stuff, you're going to graduate. It's just naturally going to happen. I earned more money, so I ended up getting an E63. That was almost double the amount of money. And I enjoyed this car. This car is a nice car. So it's been really great to me. It made me smile. But, you know, at the end of the day, I made the graduation. So my general consensus is, if you want to go get a W205 C63, I'm going to recommend it. I'm going to recommend even higher mileage ones. The M177 seems like it does a great job. It does a great job. As long as you maintenance it, it'll take care of you, right? I also want to add this little part too. It's pretty common for it to pop up and say you need 1 quart of oil. For whatever reason, it's pretty common. I should have said that in the cons. But it'll pop up every like 2,000, 3,000 miles that it says in 1 quart of oil. And it seems like it's pretty common for the M177 and the W205. In this car, I haven't had that issue. But in the W205, it is. And I looked it up, and a lot of other people had that common issue. It didn't affect the performance, but it lets you know that the car is eating some kind of oil. But nonetheless, it seems like M177 failures are not common and not often. The motors are expensive, but just maintenance the vehicle, and you'll be perfectly fine. Transmission seems the same way. Take care of the car and it'll take care of you. It'll start every day as long as you change the battery. Make sure the battery's up to date. Make sure the tires are good because it's road drive. And check the brake pads and rotors. Don't spend a lot of money on this stuff. If you maintenance the car and you buy affordable parts for it, it'll take care of you. It was a great car. It made me smile. It made me laugh. And I can't say I regret it. because I wanted to get something bigger. But if I was to go back, yeah, I'll still pick the same model, 2015, 2016, 2017. It was a great car. I would say try your best if you can to get slightly new a year, of course, if you can. If you want to buy the 9-speed, do so, but I would still recommend the 7-speed, because unless the prices are very similar, like if you had to get a higher mileage 2019 with the 9-speed and like a lower mileage 2017, then like the same price, then of course get it. But like other than that, like these cars are now low $30,000, $20,000. I think that's a hell of a good, reliable rear-wheel drive car to get compared to, like, let's say the rear-wheel drive M5s that are about the same price. Those cars are not reliable whatsoever, the rear-wheel drive M5s, at all, period. Like, I would get the C63 over that any day. Like, that's it. Like, I know those cars can be monsters because they got the 4.4 and whatever, but you got additional weight. Nah, the C63 would be better, in my honest opinion. And I mean, I'll even throw it in there, but I'll even throw it in. Look into the W212s, E63s, you know. But all in all, I would recommend getting that car, getting the right mileage, getting the right spec, and just maintenance the car and take care of her. Because she'll take care of you, and you're going to enjoy that experience you have with that vehicle. It's going to be a great time or whatever. You're going to enjoy it. But I'm just going to put this out there, knowing that you'll love the platform, you'll love the motor, you'll naturally be like, I like this car, but I really wish it had the all-wheel drive. You're gonna be like, I want a little bit more additional space depending on your size. And if you're a dude like me, you either have a family, you're gonna have a family one day, you're like, yeah, I need something a little bit bigger. So you're gonna love the fact that they make an E63 version. You're gonna love the fact that they make, you're gonna love the fact that they make a GLC version. You know what I'm saying? You're going to love that if you want the coupe. They make a coupe version, like a drop top. You're going to be like, yo, this motor isn't a lot of AMGs I like. So you're naturally going to just move on to them. All right? So otherwise than that, I definitely recommend the C63 as a first AMG introduction. Or any W204, whatever, I get it, but the M177, it put a good smile on my face, and I have a much love and a lot of respect for this motor, especially that I haven't got it in the second vehicle that I got. So otherwise than that, guys, you have a good morning, good afternoon, good night. I really appreciate you for banging with your boy Boost. Definitely add me at Boost and Foreigns on Instagram. Hopefully this video is helpful as it could be, because at the end of the day, I want to help you guys along your automotive journey. Check all my videos out from the start to the finish, and the W205 saga is finished. Other than that, guys, I appreciate it. You guys have a good day. Thank you.